Today's topic is the AO computer. With all the recent moves to Hyperbeam and migration to mainnet, it's worth looking at what AO computer is and what powers it behind the scenes or under the hood. To get there, we need to first understand what this AO computer is. It's a decentralized, hyperparallel, scalable computer built on top of Arweave. All the computational logs, all interactions live permanently on Arweave, and the AO computer runs on different nodes across the world. And to be precise, these are Hyperbeam nodes, and we shall see what Hyperbeam is later down. And these nodes are not just run by one entity, they are run by the community, by different individuals around the world and different entities in the ecosystem. Each process, which you can think of as a smart contract, maintains its own holographic state, and this is a reproducible logs of messages or computation that happened in that specific process. So there is no need of maintaining one single shared state because each process can maintain its own state. And this removes the need of one global consensus on every computation, since you can take one process and take that and recompute the state whenever you need, because everything lives permanently on Arweave and cannot be tampered with, which allows that within the AO computer you can have an unlimited number of processes running in parallel while each process is maintaining its own computation and traffic. Lastly, the AO computer inherits this scalability by default because Hyperbeam, which is the node software and it's written in Erlang, also inherits the Erlang ability to handle massive concurrency. And this just shows how AO computer can scale arbitrarily to the demand. So with that high level definition of what the AO computer is, let's get to the bottom of it and see what happens behind the scenes. And everything starts with a protocol. To make it simple, a protocol is a set of rules to attain a certain outcome. And in our case with the AO computer, we have AO Core. AO Core is a protocol that defines a generalized model for decentralized computation. And it utilizes some existing standards like HTTP, which are very, very powerful protocols that power the internet today. AO Core itself relies on these three fundamental components, starting with messages. Messages are the foundational components of interaction in AO. So every interaction that happens on itself is a message, and these messages are relayed around the network to allow or to ease interaction and communication. Other than messages, we have devices. Devices are these encapsulated pieces of software that add more capabilities to the system. So with the modular architecture around AO Core, we have these pluggable pieces of software that you can add to extend the capabilities of what's possible. Just to give an idea, you can have devices that transform the messages or the data however you want, or perform certain specific tasks handled by the system by default. And here you can see where the possibilities come in, because you can literally extend and adjust the system to your needs thanks to these devices. And lastly, we have path. And path are these structures that link messages and computation over time so that you can have this reproducible computation. And these are much easier to see in practice. And in another tutorial, we shall see them and how they operate. And so we mentioned earlier the term Hyperbeam. And just to define it, Hyperbeam is the first production-ready node software that implements AO Core. So these sets of rules that form AO Core protocol are now being implemented or being utilized in Hyperbeam. So when you're trying to run a Hyperbeam node, you install the Hyperbeam software, and this is the node software that runs on your node or on your device when you're trying to run a Hyperbeam. The good thing about Hyperbeam is that it abstracts this hardware provisioning from the execution of programs, and these programs can differ according to what you need with Hyperbeam. So the Hyperbeam node or the Hyperbeam environment is quite extensible according to your needs. And lastly, at the top you have processes, which I talked about earlier on. You can consider these as smart contracts that send and receive messages and act according to the messages received. As I said, everything that happened on AO the computer is a message. So these messages are being sent across the network, and these processes can act according to the message, can choose to act or not act according to the messages that come in. After doing the computation, they can also relay other messages on the network in order to activate other processes as well. So you start to see how those abstract concepts come in place here to create this massive, highly scalable, hyperparallel, and decentralized computer that we call the AO computer. And so with all those concepts, you end up with something like this that is easy to understand. So you can either go from top to bottom or bottom to top. So in this case, we're going to go from top to bottom because that's how we can consider an interaction. You can have a process for your application or for whatever need you have, your agent, and these processes run on the Hyperbeam software, on the Hyperbeam node. And the Hyperbeam nodes themselves, they integrate the AO core protocol. So the AO core protocol is at the bottom, which is a protocol and a set of rules that allow for the Hyperbeam node to exist and implement or enforce these rules. And these Hyperbeam nodes create an environment where processes can run and computation can run. So you can easily understand it this way, top to bottom or bottom to top, however you want to think about them. We also talked about devices at some point, which are these encapsulated pieces of software that extend the capabilities of a node. And each node by default has some preloaded devices, and you can look at some of them here like Meta 1.0. This allows you to configure your Hyperbeam node. We have Process 1.0, Message 1.0, Scheduler, and these devices all have certain specific roles or have certain specific tasks to accomplish. And there are now new initiatives coming in where we are seeing some new devices being added by the community. I think UseLoad, they have a device that they developed recently, and many other people, and everyone can create a device and load it on Hyperbeam depending on their needs or what they want to do. And as I said, this is just a very high level explanation of what happens to have this AO computer. But if you want to check more resources or learn more about Hyperbeam, you go to hyperbeam.ar.io or hyperbeam.any gateway that you want. Same for the cookbook, so that you can learn more and in depth about how all these things come in place, and then smaller details or in-depth details. Or also, if you're interested, there are more videos coming in where we shall go through each and every of these concepts one by one, explaining them and detailing them. So you can consider subscribing for when that comes out. And with all that said, let's build a perma web together.